So I'll open up a new project and then I'll close this tab here. Then select synchronize. Here check the compact box and then OK. Now we'll want to use the Dynamo tool in this section so that it can do our work automatically in some parts. So now for the next step, I think I'll go over to the structure tab and then use the grid option to draw some axes here. So the first one goes here. Then I'll copy this one and then paste it right next to it, and then another one. After that we'll have a horizontal ox which we'll name A, and then copy and paste that one 2 times. Alright, now let's go over to the north view. Here I'll create a level and then another one right up here. Alright, then use trim and then lock these up. Now let's go over to the level 1 plan and select all of these and maximize 3D extents. After that, I'll select the column tool and put this based on height up to the level 2 and then load family. Here we'll go over to the structural columns folder, then concrete, and then select this column and open it up. Place this over here like this and then finish it up. Alright, so then I'll select all of these and select this column from this menu. Select the 600 by 600 millimeters column. After that, I'll select the wall. Let's go with the 200 millimeters for now, and all the way up to the level 2. Alright, let me just check this from the modify tab. Okay, then we'll go back to the wall. Select the generic one, the 200 millimeters for this one. Then for the location line, I'll select the core face exterior option and then go into the plan and draw it like this. Alright, select again and then draw another one right here and then another one right down the center line. Alright, now we'll go over to the level 2 plan and select the beam tool. Here select the load family option. Alright, browse through this, back here, open up the structural framing folder, concrete, and open up this beam and load it into the project. Then I'll put its dimensions on 600 by 800. Alright, then select these, and after that we'll go over to the 3D, and this is what it turns out like. Alright, so then I'll select these and then copy and paste them into the second and third level. Alright, so now as you can see, the beams are colliding with the walls. Now we'll want to fix this. One way you can do this is fix each one of them separately. Now we can assume that in one direction we have different dimensions for the beams. So for this one, for example, I'll put in 600 by 500, then OK, and there we go. You can do them separately this way, but it may take a lot of time. Now we'll go over to the second technique, and that is using the Dynamo tool. This technique can be extremely useful to you. So now we'll open this up and click OK on these notifications. So now after you've created a new one in Dynamo, firstly we'll need to do the wall and the beam. So I'll type in categories in the search box to select all of the beams and the walls. Be sure to do this before doing the joinery so that there won't be any redoings or issues. Now put this on manual from down here so that it doesn't crash. And then for the categories here, I'll open this up and put it on walls. There we go. So now we want to select all of the elements that we have known as walls in the project. So search all elements here and then open this up and link it to our thread. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then I'll put this new one on structural framing. Let me just see where I can find it. In the menu, it's right here. So then I'll just hit run, and then up here we have the walls and then the beams down here. So now I would see these in the background. So I'll just search for elements.geometry. Alright, so select this and open it up and then connect it to the thread. Now hit run once again, and then we can go over here or hit Ctrl B to see the graph or the background. I'll go to the background and then put it on fit. So now we have the walls. Then we want to show the beams as well. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V on this element.geometry, and then I'll connect it to the thread down here. And now we can see the beams as well. You can check or uncheck the preview box to see the element or hide it. So now I want to go here and find the collision point between these two elements. So I'll go over here to the search box and look for geometry.intersect. It's this one right here, so click on it and open it up, and then I'll add a watch right over here and connect it to the intersect. So it says bool here. So the result that we'll get is true or false. Either we have a collision or not. And we want the ones that we do have a collision in. Let me go over here to the level 1. For example, we have a wall over here. Let's assume that we have bathroom or room here where we don't have any beams in. Alright, so then I'll click on run, and there we go. Now we'll connect the geometry to the walls and then the other to this thread down here. We want to check the intersection of these two, and you can see the true and false here. So now in order to see these better, I'll use this and put it on use levels, put it on level 1 because that's where we want to see it. And then under the other option, put it on level 1 as well. And then I'll select the cross product option, which checks all of the items. Then run, and now it's checked 792 items. So now I want to divide the ones that are true and false. I'll go over to the search box and look for filter by mask. Here, let's see, it's this one. So add it to the list, and there we go. Now we want to see which one of these collide with the beams. So I'll connect the elements to the list that we have at the end of the thread here. Here, element from all elements of category goes all the way to the list in list filter by bool mask. Let me just delete the watch and then connect the mask to the bool as well. The purpose of the watch is for us to see it better, but it's not really necessary. We can delete it if you want. This one connects to in and this one to out. So the first one is true and the second one is false. I'll hit run and it says null. So from the list option, I'll select the level 2 and the same for the mask option. After that, I'll put this on long list. And as you can see, we have the list as we want it. So I'll select the two watches here and delete them. Alright, so in the next step, as you know, we want this result from the list. This one. So I'll look for flatten and add it to a thread so it can turn all of these into one single list. So we can have them one after the other like this. Alright, so now we want to join these, so we'll need to use a package which I'll show you how to download, but now I'll just look for elements.joinGeometry in the search box, and as you can see here, the name of the package is Clockwork. We'll add it to the thread and then go over to the packages tab and select the search for package option. It's one of the most useful packages and it may come handy later on. So in the sort by option, select the downloads and then you can see it here in the list of the most downloaded. It's the 4th most used package in the Dynamo tool. So be sure to download this one. Now I'll close this and then I'll go over here. So element 2 connects to this one, and then the element 1 connects to the walls. Then we'll go over here and select the level 1 for element 1 and level 2 for element 2. After that, select the longest option. Alright, let me just minimize this and put it over here, and then click on run. And now, as you can see, we have the result that we wanted from the Dynamo tool. Now I'll go over here and open up the structural framing from the categories, and this time look to the menu and select the structural columns. Alright, then click run, and then we'll wait for it to apply. Now, as you can see, we can work all of this out using one simple click. Meaning, when you're doing the drawing, if you have any parts sticking in the columns, it doesn't actually bring up any issues later on. And using this method, you can join them up like this. So now, just an important point here, we can right click on this and put it under the input, and then I'll do the same down here as well. Then double click on the one up here, and then here I'll write first entry. Alright, then double click on the one down here as well, and then write second entry for this one. And then I'll right click here and look for string and open it up. Then here I'll write in explanations for this one. Then right click on it and select the is input option. Then I'll write some explanations here. I'll write in using this script, you can join elements like beams or concrete columns. Alright, and then after I'm done typing that, I'll just copy this using Ctrl C and then Ctrl V to paste it, and we'll use the new explanations later on so that we'll see them with Dynamo when we're working this part. Alright, then I'll double click on the new one and name it copyright, and just put a slash right here and then accept. And for the copyright section, I'll just write in this script was made by the Iran-Beam team. Alright, there we go. And then let me just copy it and make a new one as well, and name this one how to call us. And then here I'll just type in our address, which is www.iran-beam.com, and OK. Now I'll save the file up to this point, and it's going to be in this destination. Open up the K folder and then Iran-Beam. Here we'll save it in the file samples folder, and then I'll name it, for example, beams-columns-walls join. Then Ctrl C to save the destination path, and then I'll save it. Now we can close the Dynamo tool as well. Now if we want to use this later on in the next steps, let me just hit Ctrl Z here so that I can reverse these commands. Let's just assume we've written these. So we'll go over to the Manage tab and open up the Dynamo player. But this time we won't have to open up the Dynamo and run all of the commands all over again. On the Dynamo player that opens up like this, you can select the Browse to Folder option. And now we can go over to the destination where we've saved the file. Go here, open this up, go here, and then the file samples here. So now we have an option here that says edit input. So the ones that we would right click and select input in the project load up in this part. So here for the first entry, we have the walls and the structural columns for the second entry, and then the explanations, the copyright, and the address. So now I'll hit run, and then there we go. We didn't need to open up the Dynamo. Now this time I'll select the structural framing for the second entry and hit run. Now we'll just wait for the command to be applied, and there we go. It looks perfect. So if by chance you see an error popping up instead of the run completed here, this turns red instead of green. And if you want to use the Dynamo player, you need to first close the Dynamo itself. Now, if you see any errors here, you can click on the pen right next to it, which opens up the Dynamo, and then you can fix it.